Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Bisnes Awani bersama saya, Syarkawi Salahuddin. Masih banyak perniagaan yang masih belum bersedia menghadapi pelaksanaan cukai barang dan perkhidmatan GST. Itu antara hasil kajian Sage Software yang kini menyediakan penyelesaian kepada perniagaan untuk menghadapi 1 April ini. Dan untuk membincangkannya dengan lebih lanjut bersama kita di studio ialah pengarah urusannya iaitu Mr. Micheal Cho. Thank you very much for your time today. Perhaps Sage Software offers business management software and services for the SMEs out there.
Yes.
All right. But with 1 week to the 1st April, the deadline of the goods and services tax, all right, there will still much confusion over its mechanics and implementation among businesses. What would be your take?
Yeah, it has been quite a long preparation time actually from 2-3 years ago since the announcement. And we have been trying to educate a lot of the SMEs. Actually, I think we have gone around the country at least 5 to 6 times with over 200 events and reaching out to over 20,000 people to help them to educate them on the basics of GST. But of course, there's always people who are on the last minute. So it's one more week. There are a lot of people who are getting ready now.
How do you find their readiness among the businesses in Malaysia for GST?
I think in general that there is much better knowledge and understanding of GST, but it's still not to everyone. So a lot of people are still trying to understand the mechanics, what happens actually in their businesses, what's the impact of their business. And definitely now we get a lot of calls now trying to understand how GST will actually impact their businesses.
We have 100,000 of SMEs in Malaysia.
Yes.
What would be the numbers that you have served, and what are your estimation that the companies or the SMEs are not been taking care well on their preparation so far?
Well, the SMEs are actually, when we talk about GST, you're talking about companies that have a supply or revenue over 500,000.
Yes.
So this is not all businesses. It's a segment of the business. But under the estimation or the numbers that came out from customs, there's now over 350,000, 360,000 SMEs that are registered. So among these companies, I would say maybe still 20-30% or maybe up to 40% are still getting ready as we speak. So they are testing their software, they're looking at their business process, right, and see how they can be optimized for GST.
So there are still up to 40% businesses in Malaysia are not ready well for GST.
Yes.
So we'll talk about the 1st April that are coming next week. Ideally, what should businesses be able to do on the 1st April?
I think for businesses, we try to keep it very simple for them. The first thing they should be aware of in April 1st is they need to issue a tax invoice, right? And if they have been doing business before, and they have been issuing invoice, now they just need to issue a proper tax invoice. That should be the first priority for most SMEs. So how do you issue a tax invoice? You probably need a good accounting software, and you need to set it up so that you can issue that particular tax invoice to a customer.
As you mentioned, you have deal or organized over 200 events nationwide. Perhaps what would be the top concern among the businesses?
Well, the GST requires much better discipline and a much better more complete documentation. So I think the SME's top concern is how do they transfer themselves or become much better at the paper trail, making proper invoices and making sure everything is documented correctly. So that is overhead to a business. So they need to prepare for that.
With what you have shared just now, what do you foresee will happen on the 1st?
Well, the 1st is just another day. So it's the beginning of GST. So as everything new, there will be people who are ready and people who are not. And I think the transition is that people who are not ready will continue to get ready. They will continue to learn. And over time, everyone will get there. And that's why even customs have mentioned that they give a 2-year time frame, that they won't come down hard on SMEs and businesses. So there is a transition period, but it's better to be ready than not ready. So,
All right, when we talk about specifically on your products
Yes.
from Sage Software, perhaps we have numbers of operators or companies, software companies who produce the one to be used in GST. Perhaps what would be your USP compared to other products?
Well, accounting software is accounting software. I think what we do is Sage takes a very long-term look at the customer. So what we're doing now is that we are trying to help and assist users to prepare, because the software won't run itself. The software needs someone to run it. So we're trying to educate, just like what I've mentioned before, to issue a tax invoice. So we give them a checklist that they can download for free, what to prepare. We have even prepared YouTube videos, which they can just watch and say, well, how do I do it? You know,
as simple as that.
Yes, as simple as that. So we try to make it as easy as possible and get people away from the complexity and the fear. I think that's very important.
But one, perhaps if I have a SME outside, outside of Kuala Lumpur, and without a very proper knowledge, I might be scared. Or looking at GST is a new regime that might scare me. So perhaps, do you find or do you meet any one of them like that in outside of? Outside of KL. Perhaps.
Yeah, outside of KL, I think we're talking about usually much smaller companies outside the Klang Valley. And with anything new, there will be fear because it's a change, right? The fear would be based on things they don't understand or they don't know. So that's why we still go back to the basics of trying to educate and give knowledge to the people. And, like YouTube videos, once you see someone else doing it and it's pretty simple, then you can just emulate. You don't have to think too much, right? So we must reduce the agony, the fear, but increase the knowledge of the user so that they can think that, well, it's just another thing that they need to do. It's not that complex, and you don't need to be afraid of it.
So GST is not that easy, but the software is much easier.
Well, the software helps you to make it easier because it's transactional based, so it's per transaction, per invoice, per sales, which is very tough to manually calculate by hand. So software helps you and assists you, but if you follow the steps, it's actually pretty simple, right? And the basis of GST is if you sell, you charge GST, which you collect on behalf of the government, and if you purchase something and you get charged GST and you're a business, so you're not the end consumer, you can claim the GST back. So for businesses, it is, in principle, it's not a cost. Right? It just flows through your business, and you're just tax collector for the government.
So it is something one cannot hesitate or cannot resist to use the GST software to make their businesses easier.
Yes.
All right, but given that many are struggling to understand the structure and ready their business facing GST on the 1st of April. So do you think that the 1st April will be extended, or?
I think there has, well, I think the reality is that there has been a lot of preparation, both from the government and also the private sector. There are a lot of new software vendors now in town, like us, Sage, and we have been spending a lot of time to educate people. I don't believe that there will be any extension. We're already the last week before April 1st. When it comes, there may be some mistakes in the early parts, but I don't believe that there will be any extension. We'll start on April 1st, and we'll learn along the way.
I believe you have done a lot of, all your clinics and seminars to make sure all the businesses out there are ready. And I'm sure that we are pretty ready right now too. But do you think that whatever the effort that have been done by Royal Malaysian Custom to make sure that businesses in Malaysia ready are enough for GST?
That's a very good question. What is enough? But I think my opinion is that the Royal Customs have actually done quite a lot. They've had free seminars, they have hand-holding programs. Their website is probably one of the most informational at the moment on GST. You can get a lot of information, a lot of guides. So I think they have done pretty well to help the normal business. get ready for GST. But at the end of the day, that responsibility still stays with the business themselves. So if they think it's important and they want to get ready, they will be ready. Right.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Micheal Cho,
You're welcome.
the Managing Director of Sage Software, Senior Berhad, for your time with us today. Share you what, we are also having our own Astro Awani GST website. We'll be launching today, hopefully,
Yes.
and all the infos, especially on tax and the current economy landscape, will be there up there in the microsite.
Very good.
So thank you for your time, Mr. Micheal, once again.
You're welcome.
And itu saja perbincangan mengenai persediaan peniaga-peniaga terutamanya dalam sektor perusahaan kecil dan sederhana SME di Malaysia, sama ada mereka bersedia ataupun tidak berhadapan dengan GST bersama dengan salah seorang ataupun salah satu pengeluar software, iaitu Sage Software yang Berhad.